Ladies and gentlemen, the play is the thing. With your host, Judy Sleed. Special guests, Ann Jacobs, Patricia Ryan Lampl, Tish Rabe, co-authors of Love for Grown-Ups. Now here's Judy.
Hello. Welcome once again to Play is a Thing, and today I sure have a lot of playmates, three wonderful ladies. Trish, Pat, and Ann. Well, these are three wonderful ladies who wrote this wonderful, wonderful book. It's called Love for Grown-Ups. And I read the book, and there is not one page in it that I was not interested in. So let's get the history of this book. And you start.
Well, Pat and I and another woman all wore the same garter when we got married. And we were mature brides. We were over the age of 35. And we decided that that garter should be worn by any woman who got married beyond the age of 35. It's been worn by 20 women all over the U.S. and in Venice.
Okay, can I see that garter?
This is the garter.
And then
It's ready for you now. It's ready.
Okay, can we have a close-up of this garter? Because this is a very significant garter. After reading your book, you could be sure you're going to find your mate, and then you're going to wear this garter. Okay.
well,
That's right.
we interviewed women. Pat should talk about the interview
Oh, we
process.
interviewed women all over the country and who got married anywhere between 35. One of our brides got married when she was 80. And everybody had unique and insightful stories to tell us and advice to offer on how to deal with the life.
Yes.
And I became a garter bride. I did not exactly wear this garter, but I got married for the first time at 36, and I heard this story. These friends who were such great friends and shared this with all their girlfriends. And I said, this is a book we have to write.
Right, but you know, I don't think that garter would fit me.
Oh, yes, it is.
Absolutely it will.
And we've actually started Garter Bride chapters all over the country because it's become a sisterhood,
Yes.
all these women, and we stay in touch with one another. And we have a Facebook page, which is the Garter Brides, Facebook.com/the Garter Brides. And we have women writing in wonderful stories
Oh,
to
terrific.
us all the time.
We
Yes.
throw out questions to them of things that maybe, for instance, in our book, we deal with issues that come with being a mature bride, everything from furniture to finances, having children together, having stepchildren. And especially on our Facebook page now, where we have thousands of fans, we will throw out questions to, how do you handle this issue with your stepchildren? Or how do you decide who's doing the finances in your house? How you divide it up? Whose couch are you keeping?
That's always a
Which
big
is
one,
very
the couch
important.
thing. It's big.
Because
it's really
when you're a grown-up bride, it's very different than getting married in your 20s. When you get married in your 30s and 40s, you each have your own home, you may have kids, you may have a mortgage, aging parents, possessions, careers. It requires some negotiation and thought when you get together.
And one of the most interesting thing that I read here that like you go with somebody, with a man, and then somebody said, well, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. And we said, no, I'm interested in this guy. And then you sort of push that person to meet this new person, and they end up getting married. So like you said, you have to be open
You do. You really yes.
to meet people anywhere.
Well, Tish should tell her how she met her husband. I mean, we all have very interesting stories that way.
Our three little stories are interesting. I met my husband. I'd known my husband in high school. And I had a huge crush on my husband, John Rabe, in high school. And I didn't see him for a long time after we got out of college, and ran into him by meeting a friend at a high school reunion. So the Garter Brides will tell you that high school and college reunions are great to go to. So, and how did you guys meet your
Ann
husbands?
and I met our husbands on blind dates. I was set up by a girlfriend, and when she described my husband to me, I said, oh, no, we have nothing in common. You must be mad at me that you want me to meet this man. And she said, Pat, go out with him on a date. You don't have to marry him. I'm so happy I went on that date because I did marry him. You have to be flexible and open.
And I met my husband in a really unique way, which is that his mother fixed us up.
It's one of our favorite Garter Bride tidbits.
He lived in Cleveland, and I lived here in the Hamptons. And he didn't call me forever. He didn't call me for months. And I really wasn't that interested in a long-distance relationship. And because you can imagine who your mother's going to fix you up with. So he finally called, because every time he came to New York, his mother would say, "Did you call that woman? Did you call that woman?"
Yes.
So finally he called me, and I think we knew pretty quickly that we were going to be seeing a lot of each other, and we knew we were in love within the month.
So romantic.
Right. Well, that's in your book. I
Yes.
read.
Yes.
I read all 3 of your stories, and it's very good reading. So are you still commuting from Cleveland to the Hamptons?
No, fortunately, he moved to New York.
Something had to give.
But we spoke to a number of brides who have long-distance marriages and really make them work. It's, it's interesting if you're mature and a grown-up, as we say, love for grown-ups, you
Yes.
can take any kind of a situation and find the upside in it and make it work. And everything's not so easy, but it's all doable.
Some of our brides had jobs that they didn't want to leave or couldn't move from. And they said actually in some ways it's kind of romantic because a couple nights a week
Yes.
they're on their own and then
Yes.
the guy shows up on Thursdays and ooh.
Right, and absence can make the heart grow
Grow
fonder.
fonder.
And all 3 of you have like very interesting careers. Like you're not a stay-at-home wife. So
No.
how much time do you spend
At
on your
home?
job, on your job and at home? What is your?
Well, I'm sort of lucky. I'm 2 things. I'm a professional singer. That's what I was trained to do. And I'm also a children's book author. I've written over 100 children's books. So my jobs are both pretty flexible. So I sort of make my own time, which is fun.
And you still have time for your husband.
Yes, I do. We've been married a long time. We're doing so far. It's going really well.
And he has a career also.
He has a career, and also not only did he have a career when I reconnected with him, but he also had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. So all of us became stepmoms when we got married.
Right.
And my kids were little, Pat's kids were middle, and Ann's
Mine
were older, I'm middle, and yours were middle. So we all became stepmoms. So we're very, as did a lot of our brides who are featured in the book. So we know a lot about being a stepmom.
And you also have a career of your own?
Yes, I worked for years in television production. Ann and I have a company together that we do television consulting and production. I also write children's books and write magazine articles. And what I found happen is getting married also as a grown-up, regardless of what my career was, my priorities are being with my husband. So as much as I love my career, and it's a very big part of me and my identity now as a family unit is my priority.
That's wonderful. And Ann?
Well, I'm very lucky because I have an office in my apartment, and my husband has his office in the apartment.
Wow.
So we're just not right next door to each other.
You don't
Corporate
even have to
headquarters.
talk, you just phone each other.
You can tap on
We
the wall.
email each other.
An email. And you come to the room and you're both on the phone and say, "Oh, hi."
And we can have lunch together every day, which is lovely.
That's nice.
Yeah, it really is.
So you do your work at home,
Yes.
and you're also a writer?
I do some writing, yes, and as Pat said, we have a media consulting firm, so we have clients that we work for.
It is amazing that 3 ladies with wonderful careers, and still you need somebody to come home to and talk to.
Oh,
You do.
it's
You
heaven.
do. It's
We
wonderful.
believe in love.
Yeah, we do.
And love.
And we
yes,
believe you can find love at any age.
Right. And another interesting thing that you said in your book, that you don't want to be a consultant or a psychologist to your mate. You just want to be like a sounding board, which is very necessary.
Yeah, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, because when you have a complicated life, those kind of roles can become very gray areas, and you have to really be thoughtful about it, about what's most helpful and what will make you be a better team, and how you
Yes.
deal with whatever it is that's going on in your life.
And one of the things we also talk about in the book, which is interesting, is being open to men you may date that aren't necessarily the type that you thought you were going to connect with.
Yes.
You know, be open.
Yeah.
We have a lot of checklists in the book about everything from, you know, finances to all other kinds of things. But one thing is to keep your checklist. If you got a checklist, you know, that's okay, but keep it in pencil. Because you might, the one that makes your heart sing may not be the one you thought originally, the type.
Right.
you
I
thought
went against
originally
type. I
you
went
did.
against type when I met my husband by going out on that blind date. And what happened to me is I realized that, wow, this is terrific. We complement each other. Our differences, which normally I thought in dating, oh, not my type, not my type. But those differences are really our strengths.
And
now.
when you're an older bride or an older woman who's looking to meet someone, you're much more flexible than you are when you're younger. It's a myth that you get less flexible as you get older. You actually become more flexible because life's experience teaches that you have to be flexible. And
That's
whereas,
the whole thing. You have to be flexible.
You don't
do.
sweat the small stuff as
You
much.
do.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I mean, one of the women we interviewed said, you know, when I was in my 20s, I would never have dated a man shorter than I am. And then she ended up marrying a man shorter than she was.
Because it
So-
doesn't really matter.
Who's very tall in character.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It's true.
So, because when you are young, you have like a certain image who you would want to live with.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens when you're young is the image of who you think you want to be, be with, is often coming from other people. You know, who do my parents want me to marry? Who does my best friend want me to marry?
Right.
You get to be, you're 35 and over, you're a mature bride. The only person that matters is you.
Yes.
And that has made a huge difference in the lives of our garter brides.
We had one bride who, when she got married the second time, we were asking her about her wedding because we also find that when you're an older bride, you do a very personal, unique wedding because, again, you're not getting input from Aunt Harriet and your mother and his mother. You know, you're doing your wedding, it's about the two of you. And she was very funny. She was getting remarried, and she said, you know, she was talking about the wonderfulness of her wedding, and she said, you know, when I got married the first time, my mother picked everything, including the groom.
So this time she picked.
This time
her
she
choice
picked.
And
the second
what
time.
we've done in the book, we say right out, we aren't psychologists, we're not any kind of therapists. This is all in the trenches, experiences that people have had. They've told us what works and in many occasions what doesn't work. So it's a guide. It is a relationship guide.
And how did you get the idea? When did you get the idea to write a book?
Well, it's funny because over the years I had heard this story and met the two of them who are such great friends. And I was at a screening in New York and I was given a copy of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And I said, you know, this is like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants for mature brides. And that was the germ of the idea because like those teenage girls wore the same pair of jeans, these Sisterhood of Girlfriends wore the same garter. So, and they'd always called themselves the Garter Brides, and every time they told the story of the first Garter Bride handing it to Anne, and 6 months later, she got married, and then she handed it to Pat, and 6 months later, she got married. Everyone gets so turned on by the wonderfulness of the story that you just can't put it down. It's wonderful.
And a lot of women say they wish they had been at the original dinner where Pat and Nina and I
That's right.
got the first garter.
We have lots of women writing into our Facebook page saying that they're looking forward, even if they're not seeing somebody right now, but they're looking. They write into us all the time and say, we can't wait to wear the garter. We
Oh,
want to be the
yes.
next. Because we started chapters around the country with the women who have worn the garter all
Yes.
over the country. But this thing has been FedExed more than, I don't know,
Christmas gifts.
Harry and David pairs. And all of those women have each started a chapter in their own city. So that if their friends start getting married, they've gotten a garter and they're wearing it. So it's had this really exciting and inspiring ripple effect.
The other thing that happened, which I don't know that we really expected, is a lot of the Garter Brides told us when they got married at a later age, it inspired their girlfriends. Well, if it could happen, what we
Yes.
say in the Garter Brides in the book, it happened to us, it can happen to you. And that's inspired some of their girlfriends to get married. That's why we know it's going to happen for you.
Oh, my goodness.
And we also know, we wish that we had had this book when we got
Oh, boy.
married.
Yes.
Because it really does help with some of the difficulties that come up and making the decisions. We also say that we have dealt with things that Emily Post and Sigmund Freud never even thought of.
Oh, gosh. It would have saved me so much angst if I had had this
Yeah.
book to just reference.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
Right. And so there's only this one book and it's three of you. So how did you manage to get together to write it? By emailing each other, or you got together and discuss it and write it with pencil?
Yes,
Yes, and yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes to all of it.
Thank goodness for the computer and email.
and
That was
email.
a big help.
Yeah.
The big thing we did, which was really fun, is we knew so many of our own girlfriends, and and their friends and their friends. So we started by interviewing all these women. And the fun thing for us, I think it was sort of a surprise, was once they got started talking to us, we were on the phone for hours. We would say to our husbands, I got to call this woman, it'll be a half an hour. Well, an hour later, because
Right.
they love sharing it. And what we did in the book, it's very clear in the book, is we realized over time there were topics. Money is a big topic. Stepchildren's a big
I
topic.
noticed that you have
So
all
we
these
started dividing our
topics.
interviews
Yes.
into topics.
Into
And then one of you edited the whole thing,
Just put the whole thing together.
Yeah.
or three of you.
We
edited
decided
it.
what the topics were going to be. Then we took all of our interviews, of which there were hundreds, this many interviews, and then we put them according to topics.
Yes.
Who,
That was
really
somebody
great. Somebody who moved to another
easy
city.
Reading, very easy reading.
Well, the other
Yes.
thing that was
Yeah.
fun, and it was doing the checklists, because once you have a list, here, for instance, just to choose one, the financial section.
Yes.
Here is a checklist of what you need. Do you have a will? Do you, these different, have you read your husband's child custody agreement? Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
We
that's
would
a
write it
very
down.
interesting
All
chapter
the things to
also.
consider, and especially things to consider as a grown-up, because things like money, religion, children can be very big hot buttons. And you need to talk about that and really express your feelings on those subjects before you get married.
Yes,
It is
don't
so
assume.
important. I mean, because when you're young, you don't think of those things.
That's right.
You think it will take care of itself.
Yes, but it doesn't.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things we say, too, is, as Pat just said, it's important to talk about it before you get married. A lot of our girlfriends thought, we'll get married, I'll talk
Yeah.
him into it, I'll talk him
Yeah.
out of it.
He'll
Yes.
He'll
change.
change, he won't care anymore.
This is
Not so
particularly
much.
true of children. Now,
Yeah.
Pat is unique because she became a mother and a step-grandmother the same
The
year.
same year. The
Yeah.
same year. Wasn't
Yeah.
very linear, but it worked out great.
It was different, it was good.
And I remember when I was young, I thought I could fix everything and everyone, which is, oh,
Right.
It's exhausting and not true.
thank you. Thank you.
I think a lot of people think that, We've had a lot of
Yeah.
girlfriends who thought they could change their husband's minds about stuff. And you just,
It's a mistake.
It's a mistake.
It's a mistake.
That's why it is for grown-ups.
That's right.
Because as grown-ups, we are so much smarter.
Well, the other thing that's a big topic for us is kids. A lot of our brides came into their marriages, they married men with kids and wanted a baby of their own. And I can speak to myself, I really, really wanted to become a mom. And I did wait till, they always tease me about this, I only made it to the second date with my husband before I brought up the question about whether he'd be interested in having any more kids. Fortunately, he said yes. Whew. But it's a very important topic to bring up because, if it really means a lot to you to become a mom, you've got to admit it to the man in your life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these things are important when you're younger. You're afraid or you're too embarrassed to talk about it because you think, oh, I'm going to lose him.
Yes, that's right. I think it's
Yes.
a deal breaker. And
Yes.
as a mature
but
bride, you have to.
you have
Yes.
to discuss that, yes.
It's true. It's really true.
And I was wondering if it's an important thing for people who want to get married to have like a checklist. Now, this is what I want to ask, which is important. And do you think that would
That's
be
what we
helpful?
provide in the book. For each chapter on each topic, we give
Yeah.
you, and we don't like to be as hard and true as a checklist, although we do, of course, to-do checklist, but it's a guide. It's more of important things to consider.
Right. No, it's true.
What you need to consider before you get married. How will you handle this? What do you, children, aging parents, life insurance, wills, where are you going to live? All those things you have to consider. Because as we just discussed, they don't take care of themselves.
Family?
Right. Who's going to support the family?
Well, that.
Who's going to pay the rent?
Yes,
Right.
Yes.
exactly. You
Well,
have to
yes.
work all that out
Yes.
ahead of time.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
The other thing we have a chapter in is have the wedding you want. And we are here to tell you that the
Yes.
garter brides across this country have had every kind of wedding under the
That they
sun
wanted.
that they wanted under the sun.
Yes, we've had one in a cowboy church. We had a barbecue. We had one on an island just with the bride and groom and 2 people off the coast of Maine.
Yep.
Formal weddings.
Yes.
Right.
How many,
Barefoot
How
weddings?
many of you had a real white gown, like a bride's gown?
I did. We all did.
I didn't. I had I always had a fantasy, but this is particular to me. I always had a fantasy of wearing the same dress that Grace Kelly wore to deliver a lobster dinner to Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window. Oh, so that's your visual. And I was able to find that. And yes, I did wear it in ivory.
Yeah. No, I
did.
went the whole
Absolutely.
route. I went the whole white route.
did. You
I
got
did.
Me
I
too.
did.
Absolutely,
And I had always wanted an Edwardian wedding gown, and that's what I got. And
Beautiful.
what I should tell you is Pat baked my wedding cake.
You guys, it's so cute.
Oh,
It is great.
I hope they look better than my cookies.
I saw your cookies. They look pretty good.
Very lovely, your cookies. There's nothing wrong with your cookies. They're sweet.
So you're also a baker.
Yes,
Yes.
well, avocationally, I enjoy doing it. And for me, baking is a real gift of love to people. So,
And it's creative.
yeah,
very
it's
I
an
mean, I
outlet,
find
yes.
that when I
It's
cook.
therapeutic.
Yes.
Yeah. And
wedding
how many
cakes.
tiers did it have?
It had 3
It
tiers.
had 3.
My gosh, it didn't collapse.
No, I know. I took class. I actually know how to do that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
At our wedding, we were laughing the other day. At our wedding, my whole bridal party was my 2 stepchildren, who at that time were 7 and 5, I think, at that point. But that's a great garter bride thing because I had so many girlfriends by then that I thought I'm not even going to start
Right.
with you're in it, you're not in it. Plus, my girlfriends at that point weren't dying to buy another bridesmaid dress, so we decided just to have my stepson and my stepdaughter. But that's a great example of you can do whatever
Right.
you want to do.
I had my mother as my maid of honor, and rather than having a wedding party, because I'm blessed with a lot of girlfriends, and I didn't want them to have to buy dresses and shoes, I wanted them to do what they wanted. So what I did at my wedding was, we all like to cook. Each of my close girlfriends who lived locally made different cookies and things that were put on silver trays and passed around at dessert for the wedding, because that would have been more of our way, not traditional, but our way
Meant
something to you.
of giving to each other.
Yes.
And you said this was your first?
This is my first, yes. Or as Pat likes to say,
My husband likes to say, when people say to him, "Is this your second marriage?" he says, "It's my last."
and what Pat likes to say is, I waited so long for
I
my.
always say, I waited so long to get married, I skipped the first and went right to the second.
But yes, this is my
And
first.
Ann,
This was my 3rd.
your third.
It's a charm.
A charm.
Yes, this one.
what we say,
This
the
one
third
was
time.
worth waiting for.
Oh.
Yes.
Right.
See, it's
And
never
that's
too
also-
late to find true love.
It's never too late.
Never too late
No.
to find true love.
No,
Garter
it's
brides
not.
will tell you that.
Like if you really want to, and this idea with this garter bride, it's just an amazing and different than all the other organizations that are around. Like you also talk about these other companies that will, you find your true love, join this, that. This is much better and friendlier.
Well, it's a sisterhood.
Yes.
It's a
it really
sisterhood
is.
of women rather than even, better than a club. It's really a sisterhood of real support, real emotional support, and real concrete advice support.
And
Right.
if you go to our Facebook page, you will see some really wonderful, heartwarming stories. And also, people who connect. I mean, Tish connected at a reunion. We had one woman write us that she connected with her now husband 28 years after they had graduated from high school. She said, we both had been married, we both had kids and had been divorced. they connected through school some way, and they now had a very, very happy marriage. There are great stories like that, and there are great stories like that in the book.
So this is particularly for women. Are you going to write a book for men?
We should. We're getting a lot of input.
We're getting a lot of,
We do, but men do ask a lot of questions about it. We did some radio interviews, and they were the talk radios that's on at 8:30 in the morning when you're driving to work, and then they were all men, and they were all interested. They asked a lot of questions about the divorce agreements and child custody and alimony and money.
right, real nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
So have you thought about a brotherhood for men?
We are thinking about that.
What would you call it?
The Garter Grooms, I guess.
My husband keeps calling himself a garter groom.
That's right. That's right.
The Garter Groom's Guide.
And the men that want to buy it, and then they say, but it's got a pink cover, and we say, get it in an ebook.
Yeah.
Because you can also get
That's
it.
right.
And this one particular garter belt, where did you get it?
I don't know where
Nina got
Nina
it.
got it. She was the first one to wear it. I have no idea where she got it.
At just any old
purchased
bridal
it?
shop. I mean, it's only special in the story of the
In
women
its
who wore
tradition.
it.
Right.
Are you making everybody believe that this is the only one and then you keep
No,
mailing?
no.
No, when
It's a metaphor.
yeah, and what,
I hope so.
Lace on it.
and what we've done is women who did get married that we interviewed, we would send them a garter and say, when you have a friend in a similar situation, please give this to her.
And I hope they make it in different sizes.
I think that will
Well,
fit
there's a
you.
lot of elastic. It's good.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
elastic.
it's
That will
stretchy.
definitely fit you. It's definitely stretchy.
This is just really wonderful and unique. And
You know, one quick thing about the sisterhood, I was just thinking about this. Sometimes these women we interviewed are so busy. I mean, they are, they're moms and they work and all this kind of thing. And sometimes if you ask them, why did you take an hour and a half out of your time to help us with this book? And because they want to inspire other women to find the happiness that we found.
Yeah.
And that's why we were so excited to write the book, because we know there's happiness out there and it's never
There
too late
is.
to find it.
all you have to do is, I want to be happy.
Yes.
And then you can. You
Yes.
write this book and you meet wonderful people, especially these lovely ladies, and then come on my show and talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I wish we had another hour to talk. I'm sure we would have time.
Just great. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Yes,
for
thank you
having
for
us.
having us. This was
It's
terrific. We
really
enjoyed
great.
it very much.
Thank you, and hope you're going to come back and we could talk more about individually what you do, because you are all terrific ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
We think you're terrific too.
Yes.
Okay, so half hour is
Flies by.
Flies.
Oh, yeah.
so.
Should we disconnect?